job working galvanizer based out of Navi Mumbai. The dilemma that we have been facing since the last maybe 7 or 8 years is not that the third party galvanizing that we are doing has actually reduced in the last 7 or 8 years. And the reason for this is not that we are not competent, our quality is not good. The problem is something else. It's a taxation issue. I think many of the job working galvanizers will agree with me that taxation in India has actually caused the galvanizing to be reduced. The reason being, the government has deemed the hot dip galvanizing process to be a manufacturing process, and that has changed the paradigm of taxation which is levied on a galvanized product. So as a forum, I would like-minded people to associate and put up some presentation to the government wherein we can explain the, what I would say is a flaw in the taxation regime. Does anyone agree with me on this? Mr. Pug, probably...
Yeah. See, I'm aware of this. This started some 7-8 years back. You know, when the previous minister was their finance minister, he wanted to broaden the tax base. You know that, isn't it? So he started levying service tax in many new areas. Originally, it was only limited areas. Then later on, they had done even car repairing and painting, denting fellow. Even they have been treated as a sort of a manufacturing guy. Electroplating companies, manufacturing. Hot dip galvanizing, yes. We did try Maharashtra Galvanizing Association, I'm aware of that. They did make a plea that this is not a manufacturing, we are only giving a finishing. We are only giving a coating. But then revenue officials are revenue officials. If they have made up their mind, it's a big job. And you know, the current account deficit, everybody has been talking. Today's finance minister, previous one also. We can still try, but there are many other industries also making similar pleas. So I'm aware of this. But I do not know whether we can make a breakthrough. People have tried. You asked Rajiv Kandari in Mumbai. You asked many others. Okay.
Yeah, so we
think as being highly recyclable, I would just like to know what is the most efficient way of recycling zinc from a galvanized product. If I was to recycle a galvanized product, which is the most efficient way of zinc recycling?
Most of the galvanized steel scrap, used ones, discarded ones, which you remove from old power lines or electrification lines, these are all normally treated in electric arc furnaces along with others. But the EAF dust which is coming out, there again you have to recover all the zinc, not allow it to go in the air. But India is not doing any recovery of EAF dust. From galvanized steel charged into the furnace, we let it go in the air now. But many other countries have gone for recovery of zinc, even from EAF dust, coming from galvanized steel recycling. But as of now, people are putting it along with mild steel scrap, sponge iron, galvan, everything they put. But everything goes, zinc goes in the air, unfortunately. But we should go for that technology. And that's all.
So, my question was, is there a viable technology for it?
There are processes for EAF dust recovery. People have been coming to India. But you need to have a large collection of galvanized steel scrap. It's just not 5,000 tons, and you need to have a huge collection. Either you import galvanized steel scrap, collect locally available scrap, then probably you can do that. Otherwise, I don't think Tata Steel also, it's a huge investment. But there are technology available, we can give you. People have met me. They have been coming to India also. Other countries are doing. Ken will tell you, Frank will tell you. Many countries are doing it.
So I would request companies like Tata Steel to take an initiative. Probably we can send all the material to them to recover the zinc.
no, we are I don't know, I can't speak on their behalf, but we are basically a manufacturing company. Then that's also an integrated steel plant. Yeah. Frank?
Well, I can speak to this question a little more. The biggest cost of dealing with galvanized steel scrap, as it was intimated, is the cost of transport. You have to gather it from a very wide number of sources. It's all over, being used by everybody, and to gather it in one place is quite a cost. The minimum tonnage we can really think about for the operation of a zinc recycling operation coming from galvanized scrap is about 80,000 tons per year. That's about the threshold you have to meet to operate something that you can actually break even or even think about being profitable on. And it does involve, of course, the melting of galvanized steel in an electric arc furnace. The zinc boils at a temperature of around 900 degrees, which is well below the melting point of steel. So all the zinc is vaporized before the steel even begins to melt. It is caught in a bag house, and it is a very irony zinc oxide. It is a mixture of iron oxide and zinc oxide when it comes out of the electric arc furnace into the bag house. There is then a process called the Welts kiln, or other processes which then can refine the zinc out of the iron and make it really a very high zinc content of zinc oxide out of that, which is then suitable for taking back to the zinc smelter. So these processes are in operation in the USA and Mexico, Canada, and many of the European countries and Japan, who have these volumes and a way of bringing scrap together for these purposes. I think as we see the growth of galvanized steel in India, zinc, of course, galvanized steel, of course, is a very durable product. We expect it to last many years and then come back. We are on the growth curve now for galvanizing, and as volumes of post-consumer or post-infrastructure use scrap come back in some years, that growth will also come up, and at some point I expect it will be economically justifiable to make this sort of a plant.
Thank you, Frank. I think Ken wants to add. Yeah, just sending it across.
So just to add to what Frank said, as a steel producer that made 1.3 million tons using EAF technology, we incorporated bag houses in the EAF furnace. And just that 1.3 million tons produced over the year generated 17,000 tons of zinc dust. Now, what happened to that zinc dust is very interesting, because as a steel company, we didn't want to deal with hazardous waste, which is what this product is typically labeled. And so there are 3 technologies that I'm aware of, and I'm happy to give those to anybody, steel companies or private entrepreneurs, that may want to make this into a business, especially at this point in India's evolution. There's one in the US and Canada. The company's name is Horsehead, like a horsehead. And then there are 2 in Europe, and I can't remember their names, but I'd be happy to give this information to anybody that cares to ask. Actually, I'll send the information to the conference organizers, and they can disseminate that somehow to all the delegates. But there is money to be made, and not only do you recover that 17,000 tons of zinc, but the steel company actually gets a credit from the processor of the dust as a credit back to their account. And then the company also extracts the iron and copper from the EAF dust. So it is a lucrative business.
Hello everyone, myself is Sumit Huda from Hindustan Zinc, and I have a question for Mr. Ashok Gupta. Mr. Gupta, you talked about the corrosion of the galvanized pipes.
Yeah.
And then you talk about the threat by the PVC industry to the galvanized industry. But you did not talk about any solution, or what do you foresee? Whether you are saying that galvanized pipe industry is giving up against the threat of the PVC, or galvanized pipe are not good enough to fight with PVC? What's your take on that?
Okay, internationally, the industry is giving up. More and more consumption of PVC is replacing galvanized pipe industry. So consumption of galvanized pipe in the country, particularly for in-house or concealed piping, is reducing. So my question was, can we find a solution? Can we find a solution whereby we can have a situation where pipes do not corrode inside a buried environment? If that can be done, and that solution can be found together between zinc as well as steel industry, it will be to the advantage of both. So we have to find a solution. Different trials have been done, but I won't say there is anything which we can call a solution. If somebody in the audience knows about it, we'll be very happy to share that. Thank you.
If you all remember, when your fathers were building a house, the first thing they thought was a GI pipe. GI pipe. And they used to have it outside the wall. And those pipes lasted for a long, long time. Now what happened later, subsequently, I think Ashok Gupta might be aware, originally the zinc coating on pipes, inside and outside, the average was 400 grams per square meter, long time ago. But invariably, all the galvanized pipe manufacturers were always putting much more than 400 grams, 450, 500 grams, 550 grams, 575 grams, etc. Over a period of time, the blowing technology for the outside and the inside of the pipes also got improved. And the coating, as much as possible, was removed by an efficient wiping arrangement by which the coating which they were unknowingly put far in excess came down. And also the Bureau of Indian Standards also revised a few years back from 400 to 350 grams per square meter. And well-known pipe manufacturers like APL and many others, Tata Steel Tube Division, etc., they adhere to the BIS norms. But there are also some galvanizers, tube galvanizers, many on the highways on the way to Rohtak and many other places, they make galvanized pipes for the Loha Mandi. I hope you understand what I mean. Where nobody looks for standard or specification or BIS number. They only go and look for GI pipe. I want, buy it and take it. And that pipe will have much lower coating weight than the BIS specified coating weight. You agree, Ashok?
Yeah.
So, and these are the pipes which will have much less than 350 grams per square meter, commercial grade pipes. These things sell in Loha Mandi, but it won't sell in CPWD, it won't sell in Indian Railways or Airport Authority. They look for BIS mark and the number, etc. So this is the type of pipe which does not last for long, whether you have it outside or inside. And this is the problem, crux of the problem. Actually, as manufacturers, we should ensure that we give a product, whether it is Rohtak galvanizer or big galvanizers, many others, we should give a pipe or sheet or whatever, which has got enough zinc coating for a long life. But if you try to cut down and the customer burns his fingers, that's what has happened there. But PVC pipes, again, let me tell you, that's much easier to transport. In many hilly areas, people carry it on the shoulders for irrigation or whatever. So there are so many advantages there, low cost and lightweight, etc. But GI pipe will be there for many applications. It has come for scaffolding now, construction site. It has come for railing. If you go for Republic Day parade on 26th of January, the entire railing will be all GI pipes. There are many other structural applications coming there.
Let me add to that. Plumbing used to be one of the large applications of GI pipes of steel and zinc. It has reduced a lot, and it's not only in India, it's all over the world. And the coating has also been tried much higher, not only 400 grams, 550, 600, 700 grams. Everywhere the problem remains same. And I don't think it is impossible to find out a technology, find out a method by which this elimination or erosion of zinc should not take place. So I feel it is possible for the steel and zinc industry to come together and find a solution whereby galvanized pipe, zinc pipes work wonderfully well in an open environment. I have seen pipes which are more than 120 years old in Mumbai, Bombay Municipal Corporation. These pipes are giving good service, 120 years old. But same pipe when it is used inside doesn't stay for 120 days. So this is a simple problem. I think we can together find a solution to it. Thank you.
Yeah, Frank.
I've encountered in trying to help people with this kind of thing is a lot of times people will use the galvanized pipe as a grounding. When you were a lad, you probably did not have so much electricity in the house, and furthermore, the appliances you used perhaps were not grounded. And now, of course, we're required to ground everything, and we are having much more amperage in the house. So I've run into situations where people are grounding on these pipes, and you get premature corrosion of the pipe from the use of grounds. Now, as we've got a PVC pipe, of course, they're electric insulators. We can't use those for grounds. So then it becomes merely a point of saying, well, whatever the practice is that you're going to use for PVC, for grounding, you should use that for the galv pipe and not involve that in the grounding procedure. When you're outside, of course, your zinc is inactive. It's not, it's dry. When you get in the walls, then you have moisture in there, and the zinc can take part in an electrochemical couple. So I've seen instances where we just had to isolate the pipe from the electrical system of the house, and then we didn't have these problems anymore. So it may be a question of the building codes and the building practices to eliminate the use of the pipes as grounds, which electricians love to do. But we may have to take that out of their hands to solve this problem.
So I just wanted to add a little bit more. Pipes in North America to transport potable water has not been, at least in my lifetime, I've never seen it. It's been mainly copper, and you're absolutely right, copper is transitioning into plastic because they've got these quick fit connectors. So all residential construction is now in North America now typically uses either copper or these plastic piping, the tubing. But I think there's an interesting opportunity to use galvanized pipe, and it's being used in wide areas for fire prevention, sprinklers. And I don't know if that's being done in India, but that's exactly the opportunity we want to focus on. It's never been a good idea in my mind to use galvanized steel to transport potable water. So copper is good because it has antibacterial properties, and plastic probably is in that same category. But I think rather than try and prolong a application like this, maybe it's time to look at opportunities in new areas.
Thanks, Ken.
So, in your presentations, you have said the railways are using a lot of, steel materials, maximum users. But I've seen that you have said only 2% of the galvanized materials are being used in the railway industry, of the total 100%, So I think, is it the poor performance of the galvanized material, or the cost of the galvanized material, or the something else, why the railway is not preferring using the galvanized? 1/3 of the track is only electrified, 2/3 is yet to be electrified, number of but railway is switching from metal to the non-metal. As a railwayman, I am in the laboratory side, railway is adopting FRPs, PVCs and other, metals to non-metal materials. Even the brake blocks which we are using, the cast irons, they are using the asbestos, non-asbestos brake blocks, fiber type. So, what is the, I am agree with Gupta Sahab, कि there is certain problem in our country where we are using the galvanized material, either of the cost or of the poor performance or of the substandard materials. That's why the people or the market is not being preferred. This is my anxiety, why the railway is not using, because of the so much consumption of the steel.
I understood your question. If I remember, maybe about 12, 15 years back, plenty of railway electrification was being done in the country. Almost every year, 500, 600 kilometers of railway electrified track came in the country. I've been seeing over a period of time. I'm in touch with Core, Allahabad and many other places. Now, last few years, what happened was Indian Railways, the financial crunch they went through. You saw last week that it is bankrupt. That's why the fares had to be increased. That's why they want FDI in railways, they want FDI in other areas. So what happened was, last few years, railways were spending more money on doubling of the tracks, more on safety aspects, more on accident prevention. A lot of money was diverted there. When Mamta was there and many others were there, the funds shifted from projects like this to other areas. Every day something happening here and there, Rajdhani getting derailed and many other areas. So money was sent there, and I used to see some time 50 kilometers of railway electrified track sometimes. But last few months I'm seeing that they once again want to go for increased railway electrification. There was an announcement last week.
No, sir. No, sir. For the last so many years, I am seeing they are opting phosphating, they are opting anti-corrosive paints, red oxide paints, they are opting rustonils, even they are preferring, they put epoxy coatings they are putting, but they are not switching over, they are not thinking about we are not thinking rather about this zinc coated components.
I have understood your question. Now again, this is what I said. Our engineers, our designers, our specifiers, they are very selective. When you use the electrified track, it gives 40-50 years maintenance-free protection there. But when you do some phosphating or plating or whatever, every 2 years they will be doing repairs and maintenance. RDSO code, RDSO specification. You know, galvanizing gives a long life at a low cost, a long maintenance-free life. But somewhere else you want to go for low-cost corrosion protection methods, painting or plating, etc., which will need replacement in 6 months and 1 year in coastal areas and many other areas. So this is what we know. Many areas, maintenance free, this is the best protection. But somewhere else you want to go for a low-cost protection method with a lesser coating. Plating gives lesser coating, paint will be
No, sir,
poorer.
if we improve the quality of the zinc coating, its cost is going to be high, sir.
Yeah.
So it's a non-affordable thing.
Shall I tell
Just
you?
Gupta Sahab has said if we have to make a balance between the quality and the cost. If we improve the quality of the zinc coating, then its cost is getting high. So we have to make a
No,
compromise.
the initial cost will be slightly more, but if you see the life cycle costing, it's going to be very cheap. Initial cost will be more than your phosphating, will be more than painting, etc. But you look at the cost over a period of 40 years, life cycle costing, it will be the cheapest protection. In railways, I know RDSO has done some testing for this springs in the rail tracks, the washers. They have galvanized and that performs well, and they have specified that in many areas, particularly in coastal areas. So we know galvanizing may be slightly costlier in the beginning, 5%, 10% more, but you have a life cycle cost advantage forever. You don't have to do any maintenance in between. That's all. But this is what happens. You go for a low cost protection, therefore it won't last long. But now I think you will see more of railway electrified track, because the oil import bill, diesel bill in railway is very high, much more than, that's why they want to go for more and more of electrified track now. You will see more electrified track now, next few years. Once again the shift is going there.
Yes, please.
Good afternoon to everybody. I am Mr. R. Mukhopadhyay from the Indian Railway and the chemist and metallurgist. I am just contemporary with Mr. Gupta, who has just now concluded over this one. I am very much interested in taking part in this situation, particularly as you have been moving it out, we are the highest consumers of these steels in India, the Indian Railways, and whatever he has been telling by the speakers one regarding the railway electrifications, other things is absolutely correct over this one. We have a very lucrative projects from Barauni to Dibrugarh electrification project we have taken up during Mamata Banerjee's tenure 2010, and we are expecting this thing to complete it by 2015. But the now target has been shifted to 2020 it has been. Anyway, what is the fact over this one that I am going to tell you about the project, some of the two problems of this one, that which some portion has been Mr. Gupta has told it over this one. One thing, Mr. Gupta from the Apollo Tubes has been telling out that they are manufacturing the tubes and that is the corrosion problem is there, and whose one of the solution has been given over this one, the cheap tube that has been available on this one. Another aspect area I am going to tell you over this one, regarding the non-availability of seamless pipe. Many of the markets over. Now, as we are going from a higher dynamic speeds of our train, we are improving our braking system. And in braking system, previously what we are using the ERW also did out this one. From 2002, RDSO has now shifted over for all these brake application system. We have to only use the seamless pipe. And this only been marketed by ITC, Indian Tube Company. No other companies are coming up. So whatever happened, the finished product which are manufactured, they are not so big companies, they are small companies, and whatever, as has been told rightly, Loha Mandi, Iron Mandi se juice milta hai, whatever things have been available in the market, they are supplying with this one. Now, as an end user over this one, what happened if a supply has been come up with that things and we are not going to get it out this one, we cannot make this stagnant of this thing. So the manufacturer's request is to go for manufacturing this seamless pipe one. Number one. Number two is that one of the things I came to know over this one is, rightly it has been coming up to the mind also, using of the galvanized rebar. Recently we are constructing, that pillar construction has been over, that we have been hard hit over this one, is a Bogeyville project which is connecting Dibrugarh to Tezpur. It was a 4.1 kilometer rail cum road bridge over river Brahmaputra. And our construction's time, I've been also thinking about all the river enforcement, mostly supplied by Tata Tiscon, then comes up the Jindals over this one. All has been tested, and I being the in charge of that whole in the Northeast Ponte Relay Chemistry Laboratory, I was entrusted with that job for testing this one. We tested these things to that quality. But at that time also it comes to my mind that this has been, always it will be subject to the corrosive atmospheres of this one. Why not the galvanized one? So it is true that in the next tomorrow there will be constructions where the themes is there, if in going to take it over this one, that we have a very good solution if this will be come up to us. Number one. Number two, we have been going to see it out, that is the bridge which has been constructed with all welding. There will be no girder, girder will be all welded girders will be going to take out. Their superstructures will be there. And our chemists are working on that welding quality also. We are ensuring this one. Riveting purpose we are finishing out. Because riveting, again we have been coming up to the fasteners question. This fasteners again coming up to that, whatever we been galvanized or plating one we have been using out, that gives a corrosive atmosphere for this one. So we are gradually now come up, this is the first bridge come up to these things, and it's very good bridge over this one. So come up with a all welded girder bridges, sir. Now the questions is that one, this industries has to be come up to that level. Of course the fund crunch is there for the Indian Railway to switch over these things. And another things I am going to tell out, the what is the merits and demerits of, we are now using the cotton steel, manufacturing the low medium steels, particularly in our coaches underframe structures over this one, where we can get it out the good result, and sometimes from our welding point and maintenance point of view that effectiveness has not been achieved for this one. So these are to be galvanized industries has to be come up to their expectation levels, and I was very interested to participate in these deliberations and knowing more and more all about this one. And in my submission to this one, this galvanized industries and particularly the pipe industries also come up to their modern technological upgradation so that we can also take part in this one. Thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, so I think this will be the last question.
My question is to Mr. Gurpreet. Mr. Gurpreet Shah, from an architect perspective, how do you see the position of galvanized steel in the mind space of structural designer architects? Where do you see the future of galvanized steel in your area?
This is a technical question, but I would like to answer it in a way that, when we did Chennai airport and we started to think about this project in 2007, the steel of half, we used half a dia pipe, half a meter diameter pipes, and those were hot bended. Those kind of things were not done in India. Even there was no codal provision in terms of safety when you have to think about how these steel pipes would be fire rated. So one had to look at different standards across the globe and try to utilize those facilities. Now, during these discussions, what I have learned today, that GI has great possibilities in terms of anti-corrosion, but I think as designers and as manufacturers here, there has to be more integration with the industry of the designers directly, so that we can then try to understand the product in its finer details, so that when we are trying to design these structures or when we are trying to do things which are more industrial based, the integration can happen at the concept stage. And I think these kind of conferences are a way forward, but still we need to somehow create common platforms where we can learn more about these things, so that we can try to integrate them later in the projects at a very nascent stage.
Thanks. Mr. Puglendi, I think, wants to add. Yeah, please carry on.
I want to say, because this galvanizing cannot be adopted everywhere. It can be done only at the industrial places, like in factories or say in railways. At airports, the buildings you have done, like airports you have done. The type of buildings you have done, like airport, and you are showing some housing society in proposed locality in Gujarat. So for that, this galvanizing is not okay. For that, you have to go for epoxy paints and all that only. They have got very good life, and you can give your architectural this beauty also to the structure. So galvanizing may be fit only for the industrial purposes and for these locations.
Yeah.
Galvanizing is not the end of the world, basically.
No, so I think there will be many people, including me, who may not agree with you.
Yes,
because,
of course.
But anyway,
that's a very general
that
comment you
apart-
made. For galvanizing, you do a little bit of planning. How was Baha'i Temple built? They decided to go for galvanizing, locate a galvanizer, get the job galvanized, and put it in.
Airports have proposed new stations are coming. So there people like to see some beauty also.
Yeah.
They do not like to see all the galvanized GI structures.
So you can do
No.
powder coating over that.
See, in galvanizing, you can have colors on galvanizing,
Exactly.
which is called pre-painting. So, you can have all the colors of the rainbow you want over the galvanized steels, and this is called color coating. The technology is called color coating.
Duplex coated products, galvanizing, and over that you give aesthetic color painting. Maybe like stainless steel, you'll have different colored galvanized products. Going to Mr. Mukapade, RDSO, you talked about galvanized rebar for that bridges in northeast or eastern India. There are many bridges worldwide. The immersed columns, RCC columns in water, they have used galvanized rebar, and we would like to help you. I'll give you my card.